Melachim Bet 19. The old city walls of today are old, but they're far from ancient. They're only from around the 16th century of the Common Era. Right now, we're going to see walls that are a lot older than that. We're talking about the 8th century before the Common Era. We're in the heart of the Jewish quarter of the old city of Yerushalayim. This is one of my favorite sites in all of Yerushalayim, and it's just this little unassuming pile of rocks cropping up in between old city houses. Now, based on the depth of this wall, which is quite impressive, and the height that we believe that it went to, we can see that these were really serious fortifications built here from the times of the Tanakh. Now, originally, they thought that there was nothing here from the times of Tanakh in this area of the Old City. We have, of course, by the city of David. However, that's even outside of the Old City walls of today from the Ottoman period. Here, in the Jewish quarter, they thought that there was nothing. And this is because this one woman archaeologist named Kathleen Kenyon set back what we knew about ancient times by decades. She set us back decades because of the erroneous conclusions that she came to based on her assumptions. So she would dig down, for example, here in the Old City, where you couldn't really dig anywhere properly because you had houses all over until the 1948 war, the Independence War. And from the 1948 war until 1967, we weren't even allowed in here at all. So even though most of the Jewish quarter was destroyed, it just lay in ruins until we come back after the Six-Day War, and finally we can dig here. But she did manage to dig down tunnels into specific, very fine point tunnels in between buildings. And she didn't find anything exactly in that point from the times of Tanakh. So she said, nothing here from the times of Tanakh. There was no one here from the times of Tanakh. Okay, that's of course a very silly conclusion to come to because you can't base a fact on what you didn't find. That's not evidence. Lack of evidence is not evidence of lack, as they say in the legal profession. Okay, so in this case, they didn't find evidence, but maybe tomorrow you will. Guess what? They did. They find this. Again, after 1967, we can finally come back. We can dig here in our city and see what was here in ancient times. And they do find this piece of wall from the time of Tanakh, among many other things. So what is it that's so special about this little piece of wall sticking out of the ground? Chizkiyahu has two main projects. The Assyrian Empire is on its way here. And he goes forward with two main projects. One of them, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to keep you in suspense until the next video in the city of David. But for now, we have this second project right here, and it's right before your eyes. He builds a wall around this area because originally, no problem, there was a wall around the area of Yerushalayim from the times of David HaMelech and on until around this time period, even though the city continued to expand, and especially with the exile of the Northern Kingdom, and some of the refugees from Malchut Yisrael make their way down to Yehuda and to Yerushalayim itself. Perhaps you also had refugees from around Yehuda, which was destroyed now by the Assyrians, who made their way to Yerushalayim. And now we have this open hill right next to the city of David, the Jewish quarter of today, but it's totally open. And when the Assyrians come, there'll be nothing to protect these people. And so he builds a wall. He extends the wall of Yerushalayim from the city of David all around this hilltop to be able to encircle and protect those people as well. Sounds like the right move, right? Now, where do you build this? The answer is wherever you have to, based on your strategic needs. That's where you build it. And so this is what he decided. However, there's a little problem. If you look down, you'll see these little triangles sticking out of the floor made of stone. So I'm going to tell you those triangles are actually not triangles. They're squares or rectangles. However, one part of it is underneath the wall. Now, what came first, the wall or the square? So I hope that you answered the square, because I don't think anyone was going around here sticking their squares underneath someone's wall, right? The square was there, and then the wall was built right through that square, turning it into a triangle. Those squares or rectangles, those were houses. Those were houses that were destroyed as this wall was built. Now, you had to, right? Chizkiyahu didn't have a choice. If that's the most strategic place to build it, that's where you build it. Move your house somewhere else, because this is what the entire nation needs. And really, the king has a right to do that. However, we find that Yeshayahu the Navi is upset with Chizkiyahu anyway. Now, again, there's always this mix between Sefer Melachim and the Sfarim of Nevi'im Achronim. And so in this case, we have to jump for a moment to Yeshayahu to see what he says to Chizkiyahu the king. And he says, this is in Perek Chaf Bet of Yeshayahu. We're looking at Pasuk Yud. Ve'batei Yerushalayim safartim. You counted the houses of Yerushalayim. Ve'titzu habatim levatzeh hachoma. And you destroyed the houses to fortify the wall. You're literally looking at this pasuk sprouting out of the ground before your eyes. This is crazy. It should give you the chills. Okay? These houses, this is a house that was destroyed to reinforce the wall. This is Chizkiyahu. Now, on the one hand, first of all, that's just wild seeing a pasuk coming out of the ground in modern times. But we are left with a question, and that's what did Chizkiyahu do wrong? It would seem he did the right thing. He's trying to protect these people. If the house is there, but that's the most strategic place to build a wall, move your house somewhere else. That's the place, right? It's for the good of the entire population here. So what is Yeshayahu upset about? Perhaps what he's upset about is not the two projects that he's undertaking. And again, I only told you one. We'll see the other one soon. These two projects he had to do. The problem is there's something missing. We learned from Yaakov Avinu. What do we have to do when an enemy is on his way? We have to prepare. Absolutely. We have to do our ishtadlus. No question. We also have to daven. We have to ask Hashem for help. Where's that part? And so Chizkiyahu is told that this place is going to be destroyed. But then he davens. He asks for Hashem's help, and he knows because of his great-great-great-grandfather, David HaMelech, that even if a sword is on your neck, it's not too late to ask for help from Hashem. And so he does. And Yeshayahu, the Navi, comes back to him. And this is already in our parak. We're going to read this together. Now we're back to Melachim, parak Yud Tet, pasuk Lamed Bet. Lachin koam Hashem el melech Ashur. And so Hashem says to the king of Ashur, Lo yavo el ha'ir hazot. He's not going to come to this city. Now, you ready for this? Count with me the things that he says here, because this should ring a bell for you. V'lo yoreh sham chetz. He's not going to shoot an arrow there. V'lo yikadmena magen. He's not going to go forth with a shield, or in this case, what that probably means is a siege machine, which had a shield in front of it. V'lo yishpoch aleha solela. He's not going to pour against it a siege ramp. If you want to know what was in the mind of the soldiers who were standing here the night before the perhaps destruction of Yerushalayim, as the Assyrian Empire is on its way here, and they've already seen what they've done all over the kingdom, the depiction in their mind was the conquest of Lachish. That same depiction that we see on the throne room walls of Nineveh, that's what's going through their mind. They're imagining the people who've been tortured and killed and exiled. They're imagining what it will look like when this city is under siege, when there's a siege ramp poured against it, when the archers start shooting their arrows to cover for the siege machines that are making their way up to breach the wall. This depiction that we see by Nineveh, that took place by Lachish, is exactly what's in the minds of the people here. And we know that because that's exactly what Yeshayahu says is not going to happen here in Yerushalayim. And the archaeology matches it one-to-one. We find destruction layers all over Yehuda, including, of course, Lachish. And here in Yerushalayim, we find a destruction layer by Bavel, but in this time period of Ashur, no destruction layer. It wasn't destroyed. Just like the Navi says, just like the ancient texts from the ancient Near East also say, it matches one-to-one. Yerushalayim was saved at the last minute because Chizkiyahu did tshuva. We have to do our hishtadlus, and we have to ask Hashem for help, no matter what the challenge is. He can help us. All we got to do is ask. But we also got to try. We got to do our part. This is another one of those amazing examples where we see the Tanakh and its message sprouting right out of the ground. And it's really, really exciting. And as you already know, you can do this all over the land and throughout the prakim of Tanakh.